Welcome to the Dup Dive. Today, we're really zeroing in on AI agents and the incredible progress happening there.
Absolutely. It's moving so fast.
It really is. We've got this great collection of insights, basically looking at how these autonomous systems are becoming, well, less science fiction and more reality.
hmm
So our mission today is to unpack all that, see what it means for you listening.
Yeah, we've been digging into these excerpts from a document called AI Agents and the Model Context Protocol. It's a pretty good snapshot, I think.
Right. And it really shows where things are heading.
Exactly. It's a big leap, isn't it?
Yeah.
From the sort of simple chatbots we're used to these agents that can act much more on their own.
Okay, let's unpack that evolution then. The source material lays it out quite clearly. We
Yeah.
started with, what, foundational models.
Yeah, basically just predicting the next word, like you said.
Yeah.
Simple sequence stuff.
Then came the instruction fine-tuned models.
Yeah.
The chatbots, right? The ones many of us use daily.
Mm-hmm. ChatGPT, Claude, those types.
But now, the big shift, the really transformative part, seems to be training models to actually observe their environment.
Yes, observe and then reason about it, make plans.
Use tools, resources, all autonomously.
Exactly. And even talk to, coordinate with other agents. That's the huge step.
That's a whole different ballgame.
And there's this graphic in the document, just a simple diagonal line showing agent evolution.
I saw that.
It's quite effective, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just visually showing that strong upward forward momentum towards, well, real autonomy.
Yeah, it's not just about getting slightly smarter chatbots. It's a fundamental change.
Totally. A different way for AI to operate.
And it's not just the models improving, is it? The whole ecosystem around building these agents seems to be booming.
Oh, definitely. The source highlights that. Building, deploying, even monitoring these agents, it's all getting faster, easier.
We're seeing the big players evolve, right? Like OAI assistants, Copilot, Bedrock agents.
Yeah, they're adapting. But also new players jumping in. Cloudflare, Pydantic are mentioned.
And those low-code platforms, too. Lindy, Dust.tt makes it more accessible.
It does. Feels like the infrastructure, the tooling is finally catching up with the potential of the AI itself.
Right. The techniques, the frameworks, the proof points, it's all maturing.
Absolutely. And the document makes this great point about agentic frameworks lifting the tide for all.
Ah, yeah. What's that getting at exactly?
It's about the shared knowledge.
Mhm.
Companies like Anthropic, Pydantic, LangChain, Hugging Face, they're publishing guides, training materials.
So everyone benefits.
Exactly. It's collaborative. That shared learning curve helps everyone build better agents faster. A rising tide lifts all boats, you know.
It's like the barriers to entry are coming down bit by bit. Okay, so
Huh.
this is where it gets really interesting, I think, the actual impact.
The real world value.
Yeah, the source gives some solid examples. Let's talk Bloomberg. Compliance agents.
Yeah, improving fact checking, minimizing risk,
Yeah.
and the result, 30 to 50% faster decision making.
Wow, in compliance, that's significant. Think about the speed, the efficiency gain there.
Right. It really is. And it's
Yeah.
not just speed, it's the type of task.
Mhm.
Compliance,
Mhm.
risk, these are complex, high stakes areas.
Like the accuracy.
Totally. So the fact that agents can make such a difference there suggests they're really getting quite capable with nuanced information.
Okay, so finance. What else? Coding.
Yeah, Booking.com and Jane Street, using coding agents to like clean up dead code, help with reviews.
Stuff developers maybe don't love doing.
Probably not. And it's reclaiming their time. Cycle times cut by over 30%.
That's a huge productivity boost for developers. Lets them focus on the bigger picture stuff.
Exactly. More strategic work.
And the scale. BCG delivering over 300 of these Gen AI agents.
300 agents across more than 100 clients. That's serious deployment.
And the results are pretty staggering, according to the source. Up to 90% cost reduction, 50–75% faster execution.
And 30–40% productivity uplift overall. I mean, these aren't small tweaks. This is fundamental change.
Absolutely. It changes how work gets done.
And then there's Brightwave's research agents, processing 10,000 pages of legal or financial text.
Into decision-ready takeaways. That sounds like magic.
Pretty close. Imagine the hours saved, the insights gained. It could really change the economics of research, make deep insights more accessible.
Okay, so the value is clearly there, or starting to be. But the source is balanced, right? It talks limitations too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's not all perfect yet.
Let's start with reasoning and planning. Sounds like they still struggle a bit.
They do. Multi-step reasoning, especially with long-term dependencies, that's still tricky.
And the classic hallucination problem, making stuff up.
Still an issue. And just plain incorrect inferences. Areas needing definite improvement.
But there is progress.
Yes. The document mentions reasoning during inference, so the AI can kind of think things through as it goes, not just rely on pre-baked patterns.
Okay, that's interesting. But complex reasoning, factual accuracy, still work in progress.
Very much so. Active research area.
What about actually doing things? Task autonomy, execution?
Good in simulations, okay with tools and APIs,
Mm.
but the real world, unpredictable scenarios, still hurdles there.
So less about controlling a robot in a factory, more about interacting with digital systems right now.
Generally, yes. Though we are seeing moves toward standardizing tool access, better security around that.
And better goal seeking, working towards an objective.
Yeah, that's improving.
Mm-hmm.
But true autonomy in complex physical spaces without supervision, that's still a big jump for most applications.
Makes sense. Then there's memory. They're forgetful.
A bit, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Linked to the context window size, how much info they can hold actively.
Yeah.
So long-term recall is a challenge.
So they might forget what you talked about yesterday.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
Building that contextual awareness, enabling continuous learning so they remember and adapt over time,
Yeah.
that's critical development work.
Right. And reliability, safety, always huge concerns. Hallucinations again, biases from training data,
Yep. Ongoing limitations highlighted in the source.
but efforts are underway.
Big time. Improving model calibration, basically, making the AI better at knowing when it doesn't know something or isn't sure.
That seems important.
Crucial. And developing better ways to evaluate them, catch problems. Reliability and safety are top priorities, obviously.
Okay, last one on limitations. Integration, interoperability. Sounds like data silos are a problem.
Yeah, information trapped in different systems, plus security risks. It hinders agents talking to each other or different platforms smoothly.
So we need bridges.
Essentially, universal AI standards, better middleware software that connects things. That's key to breaking down silos.
The source mentions social understanding briefly, too.
Yeah, just notes it's kind of inherent in the models, suggests some ability to process social cues. Still early days there, too, I'd say.
Okay, that gives us a really good picture. The potential, the current bumps in the road.
Not now.
So the source puts a lot of weight on something called the Model Context Protocol, MCP.
It's positioned as pretty central.
For those of us not deep in the tech weeds, what is MCP? Why is it supposedly so important?
Right. So, MCP. The source flags its release by Anthropic, November 2024, and then boom, rapid adoption.
By the big names.
Yeah. Microsoft Copilot Studio, March 2025. OpenAI, Agents SDK, same time frame. Then Google, Amazon, Azure, right after April 2025.
Okay, so clearly making waves. But what does it do?
Its main job is tackling that fragmentation we just talked about. It creates standard ways for AI models to talk to the tools and platforms they need, standard interfaces.
So it's like a universal translator for AI tools.
That's a good way to think about it. It's about making different systems work together better, easier, more efficient,
How does it achieve that?
by standardizing how models find and use external tools. It uses things like prompt templates, preset ways to ask a tool to do something, and tool registries, like a directory of available tools.
Ah, okay, so the AI doesn't have to guess how to use, say, a calendar API.
Exactly. It gets clear instructions. This helps with reasoning and planning, too, because the context for using the tool is much clearer.
And it helps with memory and knowledge.
Yeah, by making it easier to connect to outside knowledge sources, like databases or those vector databases everyone talks about.
The source used that analogy, MCP, as a USB-C port for AI applications.
Which is pretty spot on, I think. Yeah, universal standard, right?
Right.
Plug almost anything in, and it just works. Connects AI to data, to tools, consistently.
Simplifies a potentially messy situation.
Definitely. And that adoption rate, the GitHub stars metric the source mentions between October 24 and April 25, it shows the community sees the value.
And it's open source, developed collaboratively.
Yep. On GitHub, contributions from folks like Pydantic mentioned specifically, plus Anthropic's documentation and SDKs popping up in Python, TypeScript, C#. It's getting traction.
Okay, let's make it concrete. How does MCP work in practice? That Shopify example was interesting.
Yeah, that's a good illustration. So imagine an agent gets a request about, say, managing inventory on a Shopify store.
Okay.
With MCP, the agent doesn't need a pre-programmed list of all Shopify functions. It dynamically checks for available MCP service linked to Shopify.
Like asking, anyone here handle Shopify stuff?
Kind of. It finds the relevant server, then loads its specific capabilities, maybe inventory management, order processing, whatever that server offers.
That's clever. Dynamic discovery.
Exactly. It avoids overwhelming the agent with tons of irrelevant tools. It just finds what it needs, when it needs it.
Mm,
And it can adapt if APIs change or new ones appear.
makes total sense. The source also mentioned monolith versus microservice MCP patterns.
Right. Monolith is cacking lots of tools into one big MCP server. Can be simple initially, but maybe gives the agent too many choices, makes it less efficient.
Okay. And microservice.
Breaking it down. Lots of small, specialized servers, more modular, maybe more flexible, but could get complex to manage, orchestrate properly.
So the sweet spot is
Probably lean, purpose-built servers combined with that dynamic discovery. Get the right tool without the clutter.
and it sounds like this network of MCP servers is already growing, accessing Cloudflare, file systems, web browsing.
Slack, Google Drive, GitHub, task managers, even monitoring tools like Sentry, Grafana. It's a diverse set of connections emerging.
Even if, as the source notes, some official ones are still early, maybe documentation isn't perfect yet.
True. It's still early days for many implementations, but the direction is clear, more interconnection.
Now, alongside MCP, the source brings up agent-to-agent communication, A2A. How does that fit in?
Good question. A2A protocols, like Google's A2A, work with MCP, not instead of it.
Okay, complementary roles.
Exactly. If MCP is the plumbing for accessing resources and tools, A2A is more like the language the agents use to talk to each other.
Ah, so MCP is how Agent A gets data from Shopify, but A2A is how Agent A asks Agent B for help analyzing that data.
Precisely. A2A defines how they communicate, coordinate, maybe negotiate, share what they're thinking or doing in their state.
So MCP for resources, A2A for dialogue between agents.
You got it. And leading frameworks, Google's ADK, Crew AI, LangGraph, GenKit are starting to build an A2A for more natural agent teamwork.
But it's early days for A2A too, like MCP implementations?
Even earlier, probably. The source cautions we should expect some fragmentation, different standards popping up, like IBM's ACP is also mentioned. It'll take time to settle.
This whole space is just moving incredibly fast. Okay, so if you're actually building with this stuff, with MCP, what are the key takeaways from the source? What do you need to think about?
Several crucial things. First, evil-driven development. You have to rigorously test and evaluate your agents constantly.
Build, test, measure, repeat.
Exactly. Can't just build it and hope it works reliably. Need metrics, evaluations at every step.
Makes sense. What else?
Plan your MCP implementation strategically. Think about how it can help unlock those data silos we talked about. Identify key data, deploy MCP servers thoughtfully to connect things up.
Using MCP to bridge internal gaps.
Right. The source also suggests building an agent orchestration platform, maybe with your own internal proprietary MCP registry.
So choosing a good development platform and managing your internal MCP connections carefully.
Yeah, controlling access, managing the servers effectively, and then, hugely important, the legal, data security, and privacy side.
Ah, yes. Because MCP expands the connections, right? Increases the AI surface area.
Exactly. More connections, more data access means more potential risk. Data governance, compliance become even more critical.
So security is paramount. What specific MCP security risks does the source mention?
Several potential issues. Things like malicious MCP servers being set up deliberately.
Ooh, nasty.
Or tool poisoning, embedding bad instructions in a tool's description. Or the tool's logic changing after an agent trusts it.
Sneaky.
And a compromised server could potentially influence other trusted servers, affecting how agents use their tools. The interconnectedness creates potential ripple effects.
Those sound like serious headaches. What are the recommended best practices to counter these?
A layered approach, really. Start with trust no one. Treat all tool logic as potentially untrusted.
Zero trust for tools.
Pretty much. Enforce strong authentication, authorization, OAuth, role-based access control on every tool use.
Lock it down.
Pin tool versions so they can't suddenly change on you with malicious updates. Isolate trust domains, limit the blast radius if one server is compromised.
Containment.
Log everything, especially the agent's reasoning process. Helps with auditing, spotting weird behavior.
Traceability.
And be super careful with third-party codes, especially from public places like GitHub. Verify it thoroughly, or better yet, build your own trusted tools for critical stuff if you can.
Okay, lots to consider on the security front. Right, so let's try and wrap this up. We've covered a lot of ground.
We have, from basic chatbots to these sophisticated agents that can reason, plan, act.
Seeing the ecosystem growing rapidly, the real benefits organizations are starting to see.
Yeah, Bloomberg, BCG, the coding examples, real value.
while also acknowledging the challenges still being worked on, reasoning, memory, safety.
Absolutely. It's not magic yet.
But protocols like MCP seem really pivotal, offering that standard way for agents to connect to resources, tools, data.
Yeah, potentially reducing that fragmentation, enabling more integration, more capability. It feels like a key piece of the puzzle for more powerful autonomous systems.
It really does seem like understanding these underlying technologies like MCP is going to be crucial for anyone trying to grasp where AI is heading.
Couldn't agree more. It's foundational for what comes next.
So, final thought then. With these agents advancing so quickly and things like MCP enabling them, what new possibilities, maybe unforeseen challenges, do you think we'll face in a world with more and more of these intelligent autonomous systems?
That is the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
A lot to think about.
Indeed. Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive.